Hi everyone, it's Renee Jane from Love Yourself Naked, and it's so good to be here with all of you. I'm going to talk with you today about relationships and dating. Three places. So relationship with self, so you want to expand upon that. Maybe you're single and you don't want to date or find a relationship right now, but you do want to go deeper into getting to know yourself or maybe date yourself. This is for somebody who's been in a long-term relationship and you maybe want to create more longevity or more connection. And then this is, of course, for somebody who's out there dating, maybe again after a while or new to the dating scene. There's a lot of people who meet the loves of their lives after the work that we do together. There's a lot of people who have written me countless thank you notes for the work that they've done and then end up not only just romantic partners, by the way, but like business partners or closer relationships with their children, their parents, etc. And then just recently, somebody sent me a very specific question. And so I decided to make some videos around it and continue to produce content around this topic. And so the intention really is to be your own best friend, to find a deeper connection with yourself through this content today. So that way, if you choose to take it outward to a relationship with another person, to do it in a way that is coming from your best self, your highest self. Say you're single and you don't want to date right now. You're just happily being with you. Then you need to probably more than ever focus on being your best friend. Let's say that you're in a long-term relationship. That relationship is only going to thrive if you're having your own back. If you're expecting the other person to have your back, then you got to have your own. If you are somebody who's newly out there dating or you're coming back to dating, you're going to need to be your own best friend through that process too. When we are our own best friend, be high value and in alignment with what it is that we want to attract. So if we're kind of like dogging on ourselves behind the scenes, but smiling out here on the outside, then we're going to attract what's going on underneath. Let me read the question that I got. It's a kind of a two-parter. So the question is, Renee, I took 7 to 8 months off dating to focus on school. Graduating now, and I will be starting my practice and have a possible move. Time alone was fruitful and wonderful growth. I downloaded a dating app and I felt like it sucked my energy. Connected with 2 people on that dating app and felt like my mind was spinning on them still the next morning. Didn't even know them and I was consumed by them. What is your advice for me? I'm going to go into that question and kind of pick it apart. She shared that her fears is that she doesn't feel like she necessarily needs someone right now, but I don't want to be alone forever. That's what she shared. And then her question was, at what point does one embark on dating and still be able to be their best self, building a business with clients, or is that even possible? Is building a business, embarking on this new big thing in life even possible to do while simultaneously dating? So that's like question 2. Question 1 was like, why so spinning out of control by and having our energy sucked away from these dating apps? Before I get into the Q&A, I want to just say that all that I'm going to share, take it or leave it. Like, this is, if it relates or resonates or in any way helps you, wonderful. And then share this and pass it along. If it doesn't, then move along. I want to tell you that we all have cultural programming coming at us at all times. And most of us are kind of awake to it, and then others maybe are unconscious that it's even happening. So I just want to state that because I think it's very important. And that cultural programming, it's deep, but it's like you got to find the one, you got to find your soulmate, or you complete me quotes from movies. And I don't want us to buy into that stuff. There is, in my opinion, a lot of soulmates that a lot of us have. There's a lot of soulmates. Like I think that our soulmates can be friends and family and romantic partners and children, right? Different kinds of soulmates. And then there's this whole like twin flame, throw that stuff away. Really, it's not about that. It's way bigger. It's about finding a union within, a connection with yourself and your higher power, source, God, universe, whatever you call that, when you feel really grounded and safe to be you, attracting or connecting with another person from that place is where we get the most incredible connection and the most incredible partnerships. Just like delete any parts of our brain of like, how do you find the one, and you might want to turn this off right now because maybe that's where you are. You want to find the one, the person that we want to spend most of our time with, right? That true love, you're loving you, right? So that way when you find the person that is most compatible with you, and you'll know they're most compatible with you because you'll know your values. You'll know what is in alignment for you. You will love yourself through thick and thin. You will like yourself even on your worst crappy days. There will be a self-acceptance within you that is unmatchable to anything else. And so you're going to attract a different kind of person when you have done this kind of work on yourself. Now, say you're already in a relationship and you're like, well, I didn't do any of that stuff. I'm still working on it. Well, that's good. That's good because as you grow and you evolve within your relationships, then the person who you're with, provided that they're willing to grow as well, will rise up to meet you wherever you're at. If they're not willing to meet this new version of you that is more accepting and more loving and more compassionate and kind to yourself, if that person that you're with is not willing to meet you there, then they may not be for you. And that's hard to look at. And so sometimes we don't want to do that. So there's this balance of like unconditional love for yourself and for all your oddities and idiosyncrasies where you can learn to appreciate and accept yourself and be more able to do this, therefore, for somebody else. And it could be anything. Maybe you're a teacher. Maybe you're a leader or a coach or a CEO of a large corporation. Maybe it's your family. Whatever it is, whomever you impact, the more work you do to love and accept yourself, to trust yourself, to be in alignment with what your values are, and to live those day-to-day moments in your life according to those, you're going to attract people who are so compatible with you and have so not just compatibility, but like synchronistic, like things just match up and you kind of grow together. You'll see it and it'll be unmistakable. And when you are in acceptance of yourself, you're going to attract somebody who is also in acceptance of themselves because you wouldn't match otherwise. Let's just chat about dating apps. I'm going to be very honest with all of you. I have spent very little time in my life on dating apps. Sometime after getting a divorce, and I think this was in 2013, early 2013, I had like 3 dates from dating apps. It was not a good match for me. I just felt gross around it. I felt like I was looking at my phone all the time. It was just, I know dozens of people who have told me they met their person on a dating app. It might be the thing for you, but I think that's the most important question to really check in. How do you feel when you're on the app? Are you able to hold boundaries when you're on the app? When you've logged off of the app, is it still in your consciousness? Are you obsessing about or fantasizing about people you don't even know from the app? Are you worried and concerned about what they think of you, or if they didn't? And again, I don't know all the lingo, like swipe left, right, like I don't know. But if you're worried or concerned about that kind of stuff and wondering and thinking and it's consuming parts of your day, then I would say steer the heck clear of the app because it doesn't feel healthy. I can't even tell you how many friends and conversations I've had with other people where they have said, I had to get off those dating apps, Renee. Oh my God, it felt so unhealthy for me. They honored that, and so they deleted them off of their phones. Like, what would you do without them? Say it didn't exist. How would you put yourself out there differently? How would you meet people? I mean, think about this. If you want to meet people, you need to go out into the community and do things for yourself that make you happy. I think about the last, I'm dating somebody right now, seriously. But before that, when I was dating, I think about like the last 4-5 dates that I had before the person I'm with right now. Every single one of those came about because I was just randomly doing something that I like doing. I just was doing something I like doing. I was getting together with friends, or I was traveling somewhere, or I was taking care of myself and out in the community. I could go on and on. So I had dates coming to me, not like every day, all day, right? By simply just going out and enjoying my life, period. Now I'm going to talk about the next part here, and that has a lot to do with attachment, okay? Let me just state this, the obvious, but you could be in a relationship with somebody else and still practice what I'm about to talk about. You could be trying to be in a relationship, or maybe you're happily single and you're not, but you are knowing that it's important for you to spend some extra time alone with yourself. There's another video that I'll link below this that actually talks about the 2.5 years that I practiced being celibate and single, and that I chose this consciously. And you might be thinking, what the heck? What's most important is that we're not attached to needing to have somebody in our life. There's an aspect of us as human beings that we do, I'm going to say the word, need connection. We do need connection. We do need to have other people we can rely upon to be healthy individuals. No doubt about that. The word need is coming from like a primal need. Like we literally need to be hugged and connected with in order to be healthy. How important it is to hold a baby like right after they're born a lot so that they can develop healthy attachment and connection. What we don't need though is connection just because we feel lonely or we feel lack, a low self-worth. It's impacting our ability to be alone with ourselves. Maybe we are afraid to put ourselves out there to do things that inspire us or that we like, and it's easier to find somebody else to do it with versus doing it alone, which I would agree. Sometimes it is easier. I think what happens is that a lot of people attract relationships from a place of lack, and it's unconscious. We don't even realize that we're doing this. Or we attract relationships from a subconscious need to be liked or to be seen, or because we might need security, or because we want to feel better about ourselves. I mean, there's all kinds of unconscious reasons why we may or may not do that. We have to get clear. Do we feel as though we can be alone with ourselves, that we can love ourselves, that we can date ourselves and enjoy our own company, and from that place attract another person into our world? So if you're out there on dating apps so you can get some practice, awesome. That's wonderful. Keep going. But if you're on there like grinding away, that's probably a horrible way to put that. Trying to find somebody, discouraged, annoyed, swiping, there's no one good. Like, think of the energy that you're giving to this. It's like I need to do this, so I'm just going to keep doing it, even though I don't want to be doing it, or I was told to do it. Yeah. Here's another topic around attachment. There is a lot of addiction within relationships. We think about our culture in general. You can very clearly see when people are addicted to alcohol. You can see people can become very addicted to drugs, especially in this culture. Caffeine, nicotine, shopping, social media, like all these things are pretty widely accepted forms of like addictive behavior. You know, a lot of it's like we love our caffeinated beverages and we almost celebrate the addictive behavior of drinking it. A lot of people don't talk about the addictive nature of relationship or other people. And that what I find more often than not, this is a form, an aspect of codependency. This is an aspect of intimacy issues. And so instead of finding a long-term connection with somebody and having like real deep intimacy, which is a level of radical honesty, what we tend to do is we tend to kind of get addicted to the process of finding the person or finding the next high in attention or finding who's going to validate us. It's almost like the chase or the process of seeking it out can, for some people, become more addictive than actually getting to be with somebody. In one way, the person like wants to be with somebody, they want to have a relationship, but then there's another part of themselves that's like, wait a minute, commitment? What? For some people, it's not relatable to them. They want a commitment. They want a long-term relationship. They've been waiting for years, and it's like, where is it? How come I don't get a piece of the pie? Why does everybody else have somebody and I don't? That's the biggest practice right there, and letting go of attachment. That when you want it really, really, really bad, it becomes where we focus our attention so much that we're actually not giving our attention over to other things. One of the questions that I got, is it really possible to be starting this business and also simultaneously, living your best self while embarking also on dating and maybe building a new relationship? And the simple answer is yes, of course it's possible. Absolutely. But here's the kicker. It's possible when we learn to regulate differently in our body. Regulation is meaning that our nervous system, our emotional state, is used to being regulated in a certain way. I have found time and time again, if people struggle in relationships, if they're struggling to lose weight, so this would be like a relationship in the case with their body, right? They're struggling to lose weight. Of course, there's physiological reasons for that and nutritional reasons, and there's hormones, and we could get into all of that, but that's not the topic today. That'll be another video. In order for us to grow and evolve into the next stage of our life, we must learn to regulate differently in order to hold the space for the next level. I'll give a simple example from my own world. I was married so young. It's like 23 when I got married. I remember at the beginning of that time, I couldn't keep my house clean. It was just like piles of messes. And then it would get so disastrous. I'd go like clean it all and it'd be beautiful for like a week, and then it would slowly get dirty and messy. I didn't have good habits. I could go on all the reasons, okay? But here's the big lesson here. When I was younger, my nervous system regulated to be more comfortable when there was like piles of mess around, okay? If I sat in an environment that was like spotless, clean, tidied up with no messes, my system might have liked it for a minute, but then I would feel uncomfortable. And so I literally, subconsciously, did not do this on purpose, created mess around me in order for me to feel more comfortable. It was familiar for me. In order for me to overcome that later in my life, to be somebody who has a tidy home, who picks up after herself, who functions as a secure, healthy human being, an adult, I actually had to learn how to feel more regulated and healthy in a cleaner environment and space. Huge important point here when it comes to relationships. If we want to attract a relationship in our life that is new, that we can be regulated enough to not only have space for this person. So in other words, I don't want to lose myself in relationship with this other person. I want to stay regulated in relationship to them being here. I want to stay grounded in who I am and with myself. And then, okay, well, let's add in to the equation, there's a business that's being built and run. In order to grow a business, which I can tell you, I've been doing for over a decade, you must be able to regulate yourself differently in order to move beyond where you were the year before, as an example, to hold space for more people. We must learn to come back to this root of, can I be alone with myself? Can I date myself? Can you stay regulated? Can you stay at the center of all these things going on? Family, business, school, new relationship, dating or dating apps, right? Like all community, like all these things are going to happen around you. Are you able to stay regulated in the center of it? And what you're going to find is a bit of a wobble, right? Because For example, the person that I'm in relationship with right now, I remember when we kind of moved from seeing each other once a week to like 3 times a week. And it threw me a little bit, and not lose the core things that help me feel like a happy, healthy human being while this other person comes into my space. Son, he spends half the time with his father, half the time with me. We've been doing that for years, so that's very normal. But I can see that even when he comes back home here to our house, there's a little time for him and for me where we're trying to kind of figure out how to re-regulate ourselves as individuals, and then also as a team, right? As a family, to be in space with each other. So when you take something like a dating app and you add it in, and then you find that your mind is going, and it could look like fantasy, it could look like obsession. This is a mental addiction, right? It's a thinking addiction that we use in order to avoid real intimacy. How are we regulating with ourselves? And then how are we regulating with our source, God, universe, spirit, whatever you call that relationship? Also your community. Like, do you have good friends that you could contact and touch base with, and just so you can be grounded enough to remember who the heck you are? And there is going to be a time where you're going to need to learn what it feels like to be regulated to running a business, which is not easy work to do as an entrepreneur. It's amazing. Don't get me wrong. I love every second of it, but it's not always easy, and it takes a lot. And so to do that while adding in dating or a relationship at the same time, it takes us being conscious that this is going to require a different version of ourselves. And my question for you would be, are you ready for that? And if you're not, that's okay. It might be like a tiered process. Learning how to regulate and offer myself a lot of self-care and compassion and grace while I'm stretching these muscles to grow myself while I grow this business. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Don't be attached to needing to date someone right now. Know that it doesn't mean you're giving up on it either. I think that that's what sometimes people think is, if I surrender it over, or if I stop being attached to dating, it means that I'm giving up. I actually don't think it's that way at all. I took like 2.5 years off dating very purposefully. It didn't start out to be 2.5 years. It was going to be a year. I kept going because I felt like it was important for me to do so. A little after the 2-year mark, I energetically decided that I was going to be open to dating. And at that time, I was just learning how to regulate even having conversation with people again. Like, I didn't even remember how that worked, really. I remember taking a few steps back thinking, gosh, do I even want to do this right now? It was really not about me trying to control it. It was about, is this going to be in alignment for me right now? I'm going to ask that question. I'm going to learn how to trust my inner knowing, because our body never lies. That means I'm required in my process of learning to regulate differently to hold stronger boundaries with how I'm using my time and my attention. There's a time and a space for this new dating piece to come in, but it shouldn't be getting like all of our attention. And that's the thing that I keep seeing with a lot of people in our community, where they're new to dating, or they're maybe in a long-term relationship where maybe they've lost themselves a little bit and they feel like they're giving away so much energy to all this outward stuff, and what's lacking the clear, focused direction on what lights them up. Somebody who's in a happy long-term relationship, this is still going to be the case, right? You can be with somebody for 40, 50 years. And as you grow and they grow and you try to keep growing together and grow as a team and a unit, what needs to happen is you need to rediscover how to stay regulated within yourself and within the context of that relationship. It's even more important, in my opinion, when you're in a long-term relationship, to continue to date yourself and to have alone time with yourself, and to know how to source that loving, compassionate, connected energy with you. So therefore you can really be in tune to the partner that you're with. Commitment, this is a really tough one for those who haven't worked through their attachment wounds. Attachment wounds is a whole nother thing, and I'm more than happy to send you to some other videos maybe that I've made. I work on this with the clients who are in my group. But I mean, this is the gateway when we learn about our attachment wounds to kind of start to see where we get out of regulation, where we are dysregulated. And so I think that's a very important thing to be looking at and working on, is how committed am I to my own regulation within relationship to others. And if I don't have somebody in my life right now that I'm dating, how can I practice that level of regulation, and how can I practice a secure, healthy attachment with all the other things, with friendships, with family, with money, with my business, with my food, with my body? How can I practice this level of commitment? And sometimes what happens when we don't have a clear understanding of how to do that, we start talking about boundaries, right? We do all kinds of crazy things, either hold boundaries that are way too rigid. Boundaries are not the same as rigidity. And then there's a lot of stuff that comes up around old trauma and how we interact with people through intimate conversations, honest exploration of where we are in our life. Basis of all this comes down to these two things. How do we regulate within all of our relationships? Again, with money, with people, with friendships, romantic relationships, family, our children, our food, our relationship with our body, all of it. How are we regulating in response to all of this? Our spirituality. How do we need to change our relationship with these things, or how do we stay regulated as these things change? Here's the truth, right? Everything's changing all the time. It's the only thing we know to be true and constant all the time, is that everything is changing. So as it's changing, you're the common denominator that's in the middle. How do you stay regulated as you ride the wave, right? How do you ride the wave? The second part would be intimacy. Intimacy is honesty. It's about being really clear on who you are, what your values are, and you're here to practice intimacy. You're here to practice honesty, whether you like it or not. And so maybe you go on 30, 40 dates, and you might look at that as a light at the end of the tunnel and it accomplished nothing. But if you have that mentality, then you're missing the whole game. You're missing the whole game. You're missing the whole point of life. Every single interaction that you have is an opportunity to practice regulation and healthy intimacy. Even if the date is going to go nowhere, even if the conversation, you can tell, is not going to amount to anything spectacular, it actually could be one of your best teaching moments to practice. How do you regulate in this situation, and how can you practice a different level of intimacy in it? And if it starts to feel overwhelming and it starts to feel like too much, then that's a sign you're not using enough discernment. And the discernment might need to come in where we decide, like, okay, is this too much for me right now? Am I using this as a distraction so I'm not focused over here on where I really need to be shining, or my light, or stepping up, or hitting my goals in other ways? So anyway, I hope this was of great value to you. If you like this video, subscribe, follow, leave a comment. I love hearing from you, and I'll put some other videos below that might also connect to the same topic. So if you want to check those out, please do. And we'll see you all soon. Bye, everyone.